Welcome to Cut to the Chase, where we spill the tea on all the juicy drama. Welcome to Office Bites, Decoding Workplace Culture. We're exploring a unique slice of corporate life, the virtual birthday card. Let's dive in.
Google's PDF to podcast tool is one of their most popular features inside of their new NotebookLM product, but you're still a little bit limited in terms of customizing what your podcast ends up sounding like. That's why I rebuilt the PDF to podcast functionality inside of Retool and gave us a lot more control. Let's take a look. So first, we've got the interface that actually allows us to do our customizations. I'm going to go ahead and grab the Bitcoin white paper and just drop it in here, since we'll use that as our inspiration. Then we get to pick some of our advanced settings. So for tone, all the way on the left here is a very kind of irreverent millennial-style podcast. All the way to the right is if you want something much more like NPR. And you can put this slider anywhere in between to kind of get a mix of these two styles. But let's put it all the way to the left for now. In terms of sophistication, you could pick kind of your reading level, and this will affect the word choice of your script. So first grade all the way on the left, 12th grade all the way on the right. We'll put that somewhere in the middle. You can pick the name of your host. This will affect kind of how the script is generated. You can also give your host a bio, which will affect kind of how they present the information that's in your PDF. We'll leave both of those as is for now. You can also customize from any of OpenAI's 6 different voices here. So you can customize for the host and for the guest as well. We'll leave those as Alloy and Onyx. So then when we click Go, you see we've got some information here about what's actually happening behind the scenes. But let's take a look at what that actually looks like. So behind the scenes here is a workflow that takes the PDF as an input. It starts by generating a title and a tagline for the podcast. You can see here is our prompt that goes into our large language model. It brainstorms a few ideas, creates some taglines, and then evaluates, how realistic these are, whether these are likely to be, real sounding podcast taglines, and then finally makes a choice. It returns our name and tagline in these XML tags, and that means we can use this code step here, which in this case is Python, just grab the podcast name and grab the podcast tagline and return that as an object. Once we have that, then we need to generate the script. So this is a more simple prompt. We say generate a script for the following podcast. We give it the document as the content. Then down here, you notice we're using our system message to give it kind of the step-by-step of here's how you should generate this podcast script. This is also where information like our host name gets pulled in from our interface earlier, our bio here. We have steps that talk about authenticity, the pacing. We give it the names of the OpenAI voices that we should be using. And we also say, hey, here's where we want to talk about our tone, right? So we tell it about this 10-point scale that we defined earlier. The 1 on the scale is a brash, unapologetically candid tone with millennial humor and pop culture references. A 10 on the scale is a measured intellectual tone. So it can, make up the points in between based on those endpoints. And we give it a little bit of information as well about how we want the output to look. So at the end of this, we have a pretty good script. But what I noticed is that the script was very kind of stilted. It wasn't natural sounding dialogue. So we added another AI step here called humanized dialogue. And what this does is basically it goes over the script, again, looks at the tone, looks at the sophistication, but does things like insert filler words, create false starts in sentences where a host or a guest will start a sentence and then go back and start the sentence over. Things that just make the speech sound a lot more human. So we take the written script as an input here, and we output kind of the more humanized version of the script. And this is when we then pass it to OpenAI's text-to-speech engine. So this is just an API call where we loop through each of the sentences in the script, and based on whether it's the host or the guest speaking, run the text-to-speech model with the selected voice for either the host or the guest. And what happens is then we get a list of all of the different sentences as audio files, in this case, WAV files. We then concatenate those all into one big file so that we have a final kind of MP3 output. And then we use our create file block here to write that MP3 to Retool storage. And we return the whole thing when it's all done to our app. So if we go back here to the app, we can see that we actually have returned this and it will play for us here.
Welcome to Crypto and Chill, where we break down that nerdy so you don't have to. I'm Jane, your host, and today we're gonna talk about Bitcoin.
And that's that. From technical white papers to birthday cards and anything in between, any PDF you've got sitting around your computer can now be converted into an audio file in a podcast format with a host and a guest that you can listen to even when you're away from your desk.